Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared Cast.
So it begins. Hello. I pulled a Jared Lombardo with that intro.
Looked familiar.
I had to pull one of his tricks out of the bag.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, one and all, to the Jared Cast spoiler review and analysis of The Last of Us Season 1 by HBO Max, adapted from the famous Naughty Dog PlayStation video game. Although it's now on PC. Part 1 is now on PC, so you can have it if you aren't a PlayStation gamer. My name is Jared Ancana. Joining me is, as usual, my co-host, co-producer, Jared Lombardo. How you doing today, Jared?
Hello, I am good. I thought I was going to get my ass kicked at work, but it ended up actually being kind of a chill day. So very thankful for that because feeling a little under the weather. So yeah, low key mood, but posy vibes all around.
Going into an episode about a sickness is a perfect episode to be sick.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, hi Sabrina.
Hi. I am sick on purpose and on purpose only.
Yeah. Jared did get the message.
Yeah.
We're method podcasting. I showed up in Joel cosplay. You guys showed up sick.
Nice.
Oh yeah. I tried. I'm very enthusiastic about this franchise, so I showed up in Joel clothes on purpose. But yeah, welcome guest honorary Jared, Sabrina Ghidossi, everybody.
Thank you.
Clap, 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 clap. Good. All right. Yeah, we're no top 3 today because we got a lot to talk about with The Last of Us Season 1. I guess I'll just start with my general thoughts and kick it around. The story of Joel and Ellie is full of danger and beauty and joy and terror. It's touched millions of people who played the original game in 2013, almost 10 years ago, and it's hooked millions more, securing the highest ratings in the first 6 seasons of any HBO series since season 8 of Game of Thrones, which is crazy. Started with 4.7 million viewers on its first night, and by the airing of the finale, it had 8.2 million. It's a 75% increase, which is pretty successful. So for me, as a fan of the original edition of the game, I was very stoked to see that the show was not just successful in terms of its numbers, but that they successfully adapted the story of Joel and Ellie. I think this is the most epic and impressive video game adaptation. It's not the first good one, but I think beyond that, it's a really impressive love story about 2 lonely people who find a path to unconditional love in a world that brutally punishes everyone who lives in it. I think that the fact that the show nailed this idea while managing to successfully translate Joel and Ellie's journey into cinema, and at the same time making it engaging, to me that's a success in my book, no matter what the numbers were. So I have a few minor pacing issues, but other than that, I loved every second of it. I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear from our guest today.
Hi, I'm that person. Well, it's funny to be talking about this with Jared again, Jared Ancon, because honestly, we already talked a lot. So this is all new to other Jared, but I thought I have mixed reviews. I have mixed feelings. I think it's the more I think about it, the way Jared mentioned it, I'll get into it later, but our conversation really shifted the way I think about the show. It's made me like it more, but my initial reaction was like it felt like it could have been so much better. I had a lot of hype during the first few episodes, and I was just so ready. Mind you, I didn't play the game, so I was going in like completely like spoiler free, not expecting anything. I'm a big fan of the genre, so I was really hyped for another zombie show. And I'm a big fan of mushrooms, just as a concept. I mean, true.
Shiitake, portobello.
I mean, yes, yes. I'm a big fan
Psilocybin.
of mushrooms, but I mean, also just of the concept. I mean, they're pretty crazy. They're closer to me to an animal than a vegetable. So it's when you watch like Fantastic Fungi or you just look into like mycelium underground, like I think that's an awesome concept. And even though I considered myself pretty well versed in games in general, I didn't even know the premise of The Last of Us. I just knew people liked the game. I did not have a console growing up. We had a Wii at some point, and then that's about it. So all my gaming experiences came from like watching someone else play it online or going to someone's house and like begging for like my turn on the PlayStation. So yeah, I was really stoked. I thought it was an awesome concept. I know there's some changes from like game to TV show, so I'm sure the game does like the mushroom part more justice, especially with all the stages and stuff. But it felt like it could have been more. But I mean, if you look at other game to film adaptations or game to TV adaptations, which I don't think there are any, but game to media adaptations, like this is really good, considering everything else. And I think the acting was fantastic, and overall, it's impressive. And we haven't had a TV show that we're all watching together in a long time. So I was happy to see it. And I watched all of it, and I'll watch the next season if that's anything. So overall, to me, it's like a 6.5 out of 10.
Nice.
Very cool.
Do you feel like the show is anti-mushroom? I feel like it would rally people against mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah. But also things where I'm like, oh, the spores, like, how are they not breathing these in? But I've come to find out that the game does it right. But
Yeah, Sabrina's team cordyceps. She's rooting for
absolutely.
rooting for the
Yes.
um, I think I fall more in line with Jared's views. I'm a little more positive. I also had no idea what the show would entail and what the game entailed. I knew like basic premise, which I feel like you kind of get just like from hearing the hype about the show too. And I did have the fact that starting spoilers right now, by the way. So if you haven't seen the show, bold move to click on this. But I knew that Ellie survived, and that's it. Like that's all. That's all I knew going into this season. Um, and I really enjoyed it. Every single episode, I left feeling satisfied. I agree with Jared. I think there are some pacing issues. I also kind of wish there were more zombies in the zombie show. But like what it
Yes.
lacks in those nitpicky things, I think it does a great job, like bending morality, showing a non-conventional father-daughter relationship. Um, and like just the look of it like could walk around this world and be satisfied really. They did such a good job making it look terrifying and gorgeous, and like lived in and abandoned. um, Overall, I had a great time with every episode. Some of them left me feeling a little less excited, especially the finale, but we'll get into that. But I'm still like on the edge of my seat for the next season. I can't wait to just get more. This has made me want to play the games even more than I already did. And I'm on board. I had a great time with this show. I'm gonna give it like a probably a 8.5 out of 10.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, we can talk about the mushrooms first. Um, yeah, this show is not doing the same thing that zombie fiction normally does, which is raising the undead and kind of spreading infection through some kind of weird uh, uh, virus. Um, this is a living, alive mushroom collective mind um, that just wants to spread and wants to, overcome anything that stands in its way. And yeah, it's an interesting thing because it's very, I think, especially with the clickers, very frightening, and especially with a lot of the stuff that it does to the ground and to the environment. I think it actually is kind of beautiful, and I think that's a good reflection of the show's themes. I think showing this kind of terror and this uh, beauty that feels natural on planet Earth, or to planet Earth, I think is really impressive. I think it's not something that's very easy, especially to do on film. In the game, you can kind of animate it however you like, and here it's very practical. The clickers and I think the bloater is practical. It looks practical to me. I don't know. But yeah, there are three stages in this game. It's the runner where the host is still alive and still in pain and still very much awake and screaming in pain and unable to control itself. And there's the clicker where the host has their brain has become fully overrun with the mushroom. And then some people either just fold into the wall and become a part of the environment, or if they're strong enough, they become the massive bloaters. I agree that there should have been more of the infected. I think they will step that up in season two, especially because of how many things have to happen. Um, but we got a horde. We got some scary scenes. What'd you guys think of the way that the characters interacted with the infected and all that stuff before we get into the design? Either of you.
Well, I mean, as soon as you said horde, I was thinking about the episode with the little kid. Horrible with names, but the little kid and his older brother. The big scene where they all like kind of come out of the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it left me wanting more. I'm a big fan of like Zombieland and like big zombie movies with like the rules and this is what this zombie does and that's what this other zombie does. I love zombie lore. I love zombie lore. To me, it's like it kind of sets up the rules for a game, and for a plot to be interacting with the rules of that game is so much fun. And there are instances where it's done in here, kind of like the delay of when like you get bit to when it actually hits you and how that plays into different like characters interacting with each other. I think it's interesting. It just didn't feel enough. And there were a lot of instances where, I mean, it's just coming like back to me now that you guys mentioned it, but like thinking about scenes where they're in situations that in another movie would have been like, oh, there's a zombie hiding in there, or there's a horde of zombies behind that door, but they just wouldn't show up, or they would be like showing up way later, like the scene in the mall. Like that zombie took forever to show up. Um, yeah, I wanted more zombies. I totally wanted more zombies, and I know it's about like a father-daughter relationship and at least a symbolic one, and I think that's great. I love that, and I think oftentimes they would play like different stories within that zombie universe and interacted pretty well, like um, the gay adults. What's their name?
Bill and
Horrible
Frank.
names. Yes, I mean I think theirs is a pretty good example because I mean, you see these little like windows pop up of like, oh right, there's still like an apocalypse going on outside their gates. But overall, I wanted more zombie. I wanted more of those interactions. It just felt a little too safe, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And I do think they do a good job giving danger, but the danger's not really the infected. It's just other people, which is great, and I think they execute that very well. But I'm with you.
Right.
I just wanted more infected. I want to be like on the edge of my seat. But I think I also just like rode the hype of just like the setups instead of the payoffs, if that makes sense. Like the fact that they could just step on part of the ground and it can like be connected to a horde nearby and they could all swarm at any minute. Like that's a great tension builder, but we never saw it really pay off at all.
So
It
cool.
like it just kind of was there to be in the back of your mind. And it felt like that was
That's
kind of what the infected stood for.
they did
So,
step on it though.
but like I don't know.
That's how they found Tess.
Yeah, but then after that, like it never came up. Like I don't know. It paid off in that episode, but it never it doesn't feel like a present danger post that episode, if that
Okay.
makes sense. And like
Yeah.
I don't know, they just do everything kind of in a bottle rather than expanding it across the entire. Like they'll be like this episode, like clickers are the danger, so we're gonna have like a couple of those
Yeah.
scattered around, and like in this episode we'll have a horde. In this episode, you won't even see an infected. And so I kind of wanted it to feel a little more like a through line instead of these little windows into their journey. And I think that just having more infected would kind of help with that, like build off the lore we got instead of like, here's this new thing that we're gonna like razzle you with this episode.
For sure. When they were writing the show and when they were promoting it, the creators, Craig Mazin, who is the creator of Chernobyl, the hit HBO miniseries, and Neil Druckmann, who directed the original game and directed part two as well. Um, they said that they wanted to scale back on the action that was originally in the story because they wanted the story to be more character focused. And I definitely see what they were going for, but I think that maybe they have overcorrected. I think, yeah, there should have been at least more than one bloater, or more than two clickers. There were more than two clickers. Sorry, there was the clicker girl in the car, which was amazing.
Yeah.
The little
Oh, the
6 year
little
old,
kid. Yeah.
the contortionist kid. Oh,
Yeah.
so good, so good.
That was fun.
That's not in the game. I was not expecting. I was like, oh shit. That was scary as fuck. But yeah, I definitely see where you guys are coming from. We're like, especially going from zombie fiction that's definitely about the zombies. Um, but I think, yeah, maybe the creators overcorrected. Maybe you know I think that might have something to do with my mixed feelings about the pacing of the show. As while I have nothing against slow character driven stories, I just watched one and I loved it this afternoon. um, I think the sense of danger is what helps bond you as a player to Ellie when you're playing the game, and also
Mhm.
when you're playing as Ellie, is trying to save Joel. I think that's kind of. I think they do a good job of writing that bond in that danger in, but they don't do a good job of they don't do an as good of a job as making us feel that danger as passive viewers. And I think that might be um, close to the root of what you guys are saying, and close to the root of the problem. Um, but Jared, you switched gears a little bit. You mentioned wanting to, like, really loving the world building and wanting to like be in here. What did you what particularly struck you about the United States, the state of the United States in The Last of Us?
I I mean, I don't watch a ton of zombie uh, media, but like I think this is the first time I've seen a show or movie be so far after the outbreak and take place like so far in the future where it's like we've established a way to live in like a cohabitation with these things. Like it's dangerous, but there's still a society that's growing out of
Yeah.
the wreckage, and I loved that. And like the execution of it is fantastic. In episode 2, like when they first leave, and there's like the giant building that's just overgrown and like fallen onto another building and just kind of propped up. Like that's just a gorgeous set piece. And the whole show is filled with that. Seeing the clickers that molded to the wall is terrifying, and like it just set chills down my spine every time. And so I just like how unique of a timeline it is, and then the execution of that with the production design and everything else that they make it feel alive. And I think it was like beautifully executed.
Sabrina?
Yeah,
Not
I mean, I think that's interesting. Um, I keep thinking about like The Walking Dead, which I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched a lot of it, and I was watching it like as it came out, and I was watching it on TV, and I was kind of a part of the whole like hype as it was happening. And especially the beginning, like the first season is so much about like surviving. And I think all of or a lot of zombie films are about surviving. It's either like surviving or finding the cure. And I think a lot of the show focuses on just existing. And I think that's really interesting. To your point, Jared. I think
Mhm.
it's unique in that way. And I was kind of watching some like analysis videos, mostly about like the game or just in general, like did Joel do a good or bad thing? And we can get into that later. But one of the things they point out is like that a lot of um, the examples we see of these communities, they're not doing well. Like you see the different kind of options of like, okay, this one's stuck by like the government like facilities. This is the government community. Everything's been working pretty well, but there's still problems. This one said F the government and there's problems there. This one, people are just out there living on their own. There's still problems. Um, you kind of think about how like the human race might not exist if they don't figure their shit out soon. And I think that's super unique. And I haven't really seen that in another example of zombie films. Like this is so far in that we're not talking about the zombies. We're talking about just existing as a race. Yeah. And yeah, in terms of world building, I think, well, I'd love to talk about like the character design of like the zombies themselves. So
for sure.
yeah, as soon as we saw the first episode with my partner, we were watching I'm sure if other people have Googled it, they've seen it too. But there's like a video on YouTube of like an ant being taken over by cordyceps. It's like the first video. But it's pretty interesting because the cordyceps kind of grows of out of the ant or out of anything. It like kind of takes over and it like shoots up. So I kind of, as a mushroom fan, I kind of was looking forward to some really detailed and like really in-depth design of the zombies that really had to do with like yeah, cordyceps and the actual mushroom itself. I mean, I think to me they looked more mushroomy, like more like oyster mushrooms rather than something that's more like a fungus. And that's fine. I think it translates as mushroom, whereas maybe cordyceps wouldn't translate as mushroom to people. And I know it's really based on the actual game design, and I'm sure they couldn't change it too much. But just looking at the show in like a vacuum, which is how I experienced it, that was my first thought. And to its point, I love the like mycelium coming out of their mouths. I wanted to see more of that. I think that was so good. And like production design wise, someone told me that they use like thread and they kind of like fluffed like thread out. Oh, that's so beautiful. And I thought it was gross, like the kiss zombie.
Yeah.
Like, but I love it. Like that's the zombie genre to me. It's like gross, but I love it. And I love that. I wish I would have seen more of that after. Um, yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I think cramming, was it 6 hours? I think Jared, you mentioned how many hours of gameplay it is. Is it 10 hours or 6 hours?
It's like
It's
15.
yeah, it's like hella hours into like a TV show. Um, they covered a lot of ground in terms of like what the space looks like. I wish there was a little less road tripping, even though that does a lot for like this is what it currently looks like in this apocalypse. But
Why?
maybe because I wanted more like plot points. I wanted more like things happening. There were just moments, and I know they're iconic. Like I love
Do you remember which road
the
trip?
pun book. Sorry.
Do you remember which road trip you're talking about?
I mean, just overall, like there were a lot of like they're driving in a car scenes that I would have either shortened or changed. Um, the whole like pun book thing, I think is great. Keep that. I know that's a part of like the road trips, and that's awesome. But I just, yeah, even though the like road trips explored the space and the world, um, I would have done them a little shorter. Weirdly enough, I feel like we explored maybe too much space, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think maybe the only similarity that I caught, at least concept wise, to The Walking Dead and to just general Romero style zombie is that the zombie apocalypse within the world reveals the best and the worst parts of humanity, and I think that's the the one thing that The Last of Us carries through its world. Um, we see a real collectivist society run by Maria, who gets a lot more screen time than she does in the game, which I liked. And uh, shout out Rutina Wesley for the performance. But and then we also see the the I forget what city they're in. Let me see. They drive to um, Kansas City. In Kansas City, as you said, Sabrina, they overthrow the Fedra
Mhm.
government forces, and and they become just as bad as them, become just as brutal as them. But I think I don't know. Like I appreciate the way all of them are written. Like we see just little hints of backstory in the dialogue between people there, and it never feels like exposition. It always kind of feels like, okay, this is what we had to do. And I think with the Kansas City group, um, in the game, they're called hunters. Like they just kind of kill you and steal your stuff, kill people and steal their stuff. And here it's like actually like, okay, no, we've been raped and tortured and murdered for 20 years. So everything that we're doing, like these people, Troy Baker, who played the original Joel and plays James in this movie, he says there's no real villain in The Last of Us. It's all kind of just people. Like you don't have to agree with any of the choices any of the characters make in here as long as you understand. And I think that that's really special about the world. We see this even with David, a psychotic narcissist cult leader who finds his way in the world by commanding a group of what he calls sheep. He calls people who are willing to follow a charismatic leader. And to him, you know, it's just kind of his behavior to us might be appalling, but to him, it's why not? To him, it's this is what I can do to survive. Yeah, we see a lot of different stuff here in the world, and we see a lot of different people reacting to the apocalypse and reacting to loss, reacting to love in various different ways. The show is a story about love, and it drives a lot of these characters' choices. Um, we even travel as far back in time as the birth of Ellie, which is new to me. I did not see that coming, which was great.
Oh,
Played by Ashley Johnson, who plays the original Ellie, which was so special to me. It's like Ellie giving birth to Ellie. It's great. Um, and like her, you know, literally holding a knife to her own neck, ready to kill herself to protect this thing that she doesn't know but she loves with all her heart. Um, Melanie Linsky, who played Kathleen, uh, um, you know, because of her love for her brother, turned into and because of her grief through his loss, turned into a dictator. Um, yeah. So I don't know which of the side characters stuck out the most to you guys. I don't know. Give me like three or four, and maybe talk about them a little. Starting with Jared.
Yeah. Um, I mean, the big one for me was Bill and Frank, because I think they won. I think they won the zombie apocalypse. They had a full, like, fulfilling life with full of love, and like when it was time to end, ended. Like that was they did it. They succeeded, and it's obviously like an incredibly beautiful episode and one of my favorites throughout the whole show. But they definitely left an impact because anytime I saw somebody else, I kind of compared it to that as like the benchmark for success. It's obviously not a big
Yeah.
community, but like if I was in this situation, that's where I would want to be. It was either Bill or Frank. Um, David stuck out to me a lot too, just because of the slow unraveling of his character and how like psychotic he is was great. I loved the reveal after reveal after reveal because I trusted him at first. I bought into the charisma, and so just seeing it like devolve, I was like, oh god. Did not trust him for very long at all. So he was a great character to see because it's also I don't know, people are going to take advantage of being given a position of power, and I think he took the most advantage of it, despite like not having a lot of resources at his township's disposal. And also, I forgot where they were already, but Tommy and his wife, whose name I don't remember,
Maria.
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 They, you say Maria?
I said Maria.
Okay.
Oh,
um,
I think there's just a delay.
Yeah, I think I liked that a lot, especially seeing what the like hall where they like would watch movies and stuff.
Hmm.
Because I recognized it from the Last of Us Part Two trailer, and
Yeah.
I was like, I know that set piece. What the heck? And so that kind of clued me into to like kind of paying more attention to their camp as like another benchmark mark for success. I don't know what happens season two or even if we will return to that. But it just stuck out in my mind. So I had Tommy and Maria on the brain too.
Uh, what about their characters and the way they related to Joel and Ellie stuck out to you for them?
Um, Seeing because so much of the show you're like, okay, Tommy's the goal. Once we reach Tommy, like the world's gonna be saved, everything's gonna be great. And so seeing him be kind of humbled into a position of like we said earlier, with of just like existence, and kind of just making do with the like what you have in this situation. I think it changed my like frame of mind with Joel and Ellie. So like seeing like there probably isn't a hope for them in this journey to like find a cure, but rather the like what Tommy stands for of like rebuilding a community of like trust and love and caring for each other might just be the best goal instead of like trying to find this cure. And so like they kind of like flipped my thinking of like Joel and Ellie's journey, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Sabrina,
Yeah.
characters that stuck out to you.
Yeah. I mean, Jared touched on the ones that really spoke to me, and I think I'm still forming a lot of ideas that I had on the show because, like I said, after I talked to you, Jared, we talked about this idea of like unconditional love, and I won't spoil your points. You can make them
No,
for
that's
yourself.
I got
Really in this
pages.
podcast.
Don't worry about me. You talk
know.
all
You
you
wrote a
want.
manifesto for this.
You talk all you want. I got 10 years of thoughts.
I know, and I love that because I mean, I had just finished the season and met up with Jared in LA, and we were like, just pacing like down this block in Highland Park, and it was great to talk about film discourse because I mean, when you make movies, you don't really talk about them so much, and you really opened up my mind to a whole other side of the show, which I hadn't thought about, which is this unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I'm still kind of forming these ideas and kind of changing my perspective.
That's okay. I mean, do you have anything to add to Bill and Frank? I know that was the big thing for a lot of people who experienced this story for the first time.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I guess the reason why a lot of the show didn't make, not that it didn't make sense, but it wasn't like it didn't feel rounded out to me, is because all these episodes felt very like isolated, and I kept wanting to find out more about Joel and Ellie, and I was just so curious about like, where are they now? What are they doing now? What's happening? And then I kept, seeing these characters come in, and to develop a character takes a lot, and it took a lot of time in this show, understandably, because they're trying to make you empathize with this completely new actor, character, person that's gonna disappear by the end of it, by the end of that episode. So I just felt myself going like, okay, like skip intro, like I just want to go back to them because I love them so much.
Sure.
So I guess maybe that's the reason why I wasn't paying attention to like what the show is trying to tell me, which is this idea of unconditional love.
That's okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's also, I think a valid experience, and I think might be the experience of a lot of people that haven't seen anything about the game. Like, I think it's like my dad's experience. Like he watched it because I was watching it and I thought it was really great, and I was like, you should totally watch it with me. And that was at the very beginning, and we kept talking to each other like, yeah, man, like what's going on with the main characters? Yeah, and I just think it's something that comes with not knowing anything about the game, like at all. But Bill and Frank were awesome. And as soon as that episode like aired, I watched it, and I remember posting on Instagram on my story. I was like, I thought this was a show about zombies, but in the best way, which is so interesting now with like this perspective of the whole show, the whole season. Like at the end of this, I wanted more zombies, but during that episode, I didn't. And I loved it the way it was. And I think it was just so refreshing to see in a zombie film, something that was like not about zombies. But I mean, so many of my ideas are really conflicted about this show because I don't know. I went through multiple emotions while watching it.
Yeah.
But at that time, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, wow, this is just so unique. And there was a threat of the apocalypse that, like I said, would like pop in and out, but overall it was about them. And it was about them. And in the end, the zombies were a factor because they can't get this medication because there's zombies out there. And there's no institutions and hospitals. So in another world, maybe, their process of like hospice care and like, terminal illness would have been really different. So I thought that was really well done. I thought that was really subtle. And like zombies are there, but they're just hint of zombies, like a LaCroix. It was great. um,
Um,
yeah.
for sure. I'll push back a little bit regarding Bill and Frank because although I played the game a couple like 3 times, I didn't know that this was coming. They completely changed their story from what there was in the game. So you basically just meet Bill, and he teaches you how to craft nail bombs. He teaches you how to upgrade your weapons, and he fights with Ellie, or bickers with Ellie. And you get these hints that he's gay. You don't really know that he's gay until Ellie digs up his gay porn and starts messing around with Joel in the car, looking at it, magazines and stuff. But you don't know anything about that relationship until after you find Frank's body. You find him. Bill gives you this like little monologue. He's like, the one thing that'll get you killed is caring about people. And you go through all this adventure. Bill saves your life. You save Bill's life. At the end of it, you find Frank's body, and he had hung himself. And there was this note, and the note Frank leaves behind is, I basically, you know, that it lets you know that they fell out. They were together for a very long time. They fell out. Frank got bitten while trying to escape and hung himself. And his last thing was that I hate you, Bill. Is what his last words on that he wrote on the thing. And so you basically keep the note away from Bill. You don't show him the note.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so it's very, very different. And I think the choice to change Frank's note into Bill's note to Joel directly, I think was genius. I think it nails in the premise of the show, and it informs um, Joel's character. It informs Joel's choice at the end of the series. Yeah, it's very, very. It was one of the more interesting changes from the game that I thought was there. But there's also speaking of loss and side characters, um, before they meet each other, Ellie has lost the only person that has been her friend her entire life, and her first love, Riley. And Joel has lost his daughter, Sarah. Um, we spend a lot of time with Riley and Sarah, more time than I remember spending with them, about the same, percentage wise. And what did you guys think of the way that their stories played out in the show, and how you related to them as characters, um, how they related to the story?
Jared, we'll take turns as we did last time.
Yeah. Um, I I was blindsided by Sarah's death for sure. I don't know why. I mean, like I knew kind of that like Joel and Ellie had a pseudo father-daughter relationship, but like I didn't know anything about Sarah. So I was like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna spend some time with the daughter. Maybe she like gets infected like episode 5 or something. Like who knows what's gonna happen." And so I was fucking ripped apart when that happened. And I think it set it on a good trajectory to understand a lot of Joel's motives, especially with Ellie and not wanting to get attached. Like calling her cargo felt more like him telling himself that she was just cargo, so he wouldn't have that attachment. Um, as far as Riley goes, by then, I didn't trust these motherfuckers. Every single kid they bring into the show dies, and so I knew I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna pretend to care about her because I know the heartbreak that's coming. Um, and so then I felt like kind of jaded, but it was still nice to see kind of what made Ellie Ellie, and she always talked about like having this dark, brooding past of like killing somebody, or having like not being alone when she got bit for the first time, and so it was nice to like get a payoff for all those hints that she dropped before. But it definitely didn't quite have the same impact that Sarah's death did for me.
Sabrina?
Yeah. Um. Well, I think Sarah's death was really brutal. Not in a like how she died kind of way, but in how it hit me kind of way. It was very like, oh, well, maybe she'll make it, and then immediately turns around, gone. No, like goodbye, hand holding, like glint in her eye disappearing moment. And I thought that was really well done because it really set the tone for the rest of the show. So I think that was really interesting. And then for Riley's character, I think it was great, but I think that's kind of my thesis during this whole episode. It's great, but and I hope that this is only fomenting more discourse for you, Jared, because you're such a big fan. Every time I say something negative, I'm like, I'm sorry.
I don't care. If I
You
wanted
rip
this,
it go
if
out
I
with-
wanted this show to be a debate show, there would be no contest. I want you guys to just be honest, and I'll be honest as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, like hearing how much you enjoyed it and the way you enjoyed it informs my future opinions when I'm trying to go out of my outdated ones.
It's fine. It's fine. Just be honest.
Well, yeah. When Riley showed up, it just felt like no way. Like this mall, like I can't. No way it's empty. No way people haven't looted it like after the fact. Like no way there's no zombies. No way. And then the whole like the lights are off and like be right back. I'm gonna go get the lights and that whole episode felt like no way that it distracted me like so much. But I think their relationship seemed really sweet and I liked it. I think in terms of queer characters, there's always like queer tragedy somewhere in media. So sad. But at least it seemed more nuanced than other queer portrayals I've seen on TV. And I appreciated that. I appreciated the way they talked to each other, getting to know Ellie way before we got to know Riley. I think it was like it made sense. Like as soon as I met her, like, okay, I get like why they get along. And I think that was really cool. I think that the episode also hit at a time where I wanted so desperately to get back to the original, main story, which I know everyone does, and I'm not unique in that, but I just felt myself having like kind of no patience. Like I wanted just to like go back. Yeah, that episode hit me that way. But other than that, I think it's a great character. Maybe it could have been placed at a different time. Yeah, the whole like Joel getting sick and then getting better and then coming back and like just punching motherfuckers. I'm like, oh, what? It felt really strange. But I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. Another thing I'd like to mention just real quick, the whole like zombie rules thing, like such a huge fan. And with Riley, it felt like a missed opportunity to not show the moment where like Riley turns. And I'm sure there's a reason, because that's like a big thing to not show, like like she gets bit but we don't see the moment like of the turning. yeah, I wanted to see that. I wanted to see like how long and what happens and what happens when like yeah, um Ellie doesn't turn and I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my thought on I guess the episode and how that character kind of translated to me.
I'm with you on both those points. I thought it was a very bad timing for the episode. Um, because I just wanted to see what happened to Joel. And it cheapens when he comes back a little because like you see that it's a bottle like flashback episode and you're like, okay, well he's gotta be fine because they're not gonna just cut to like her weeping over Joel's corpse after this. Like you just can't like
Oh,
have that kind of jump back. So I
yeah.
did like it did kind of imply for me that he was fine, and it kind of, I don't know, it ruined that trajectory for me as well. And I'm with you. The hardest hitting part of that situation is the moment where like her love turns, and then she's like probably kills her, and then just like waits for it to happen to her, but it doesn't happen. And like dealing with that just sounds insane. And I'm kind of bummed as well that they didn't go that extra mile with it.
Yeah, that would have been totally fun, I think. And even like a moment of tension of like, do we kill ourselves or whatever? Like, I think that would have been so interesting. I wonder how the game did it. But the whole like is Joel dead or not? Like as soon as as soon as he falls onto the snow in the previous episode, and then she's just like Joel and like cut. It made me think of Sherlock Holmes. I'm like, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle knew what was up because it felt the same, just like he's dead. And then I knew like they're gonna come back next episode. And then they took so long. That felt really strange, like edging, like God damn, like please. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all
Uh,
about really.
I I think from an editing standpoint, I agree with you guys. I think that's one of the issues with the last three episodes is like I think they could have been stretched out. I think they could have been given more time so that we can still have all these story elements in that same order, but we have time to breathe. We have time to see where everybody's at, and we have time to meditate on what's happening, and not just have those open questions hanging over without getting in the way of our enjoyment of the character moments. But on the page, I disagree. I think uh, we're stopping at a point where Ellie's at a cross. We cut away to Riley's to Ellie's past at a point where Ellie's at a crossroads. Right, she does have a choice to leave Joel, and she will survive. She's more likely to survive if she leaves Joel. As far as she knows, she doesn't know David's out there. She doesn't know David has penicillin. As far as she knows, Joel is dead. Um, and uh, Riley's last words to Ellie are this: one, we take the easy way out. It's quick and painless. I'm not a fan of option one. Two, we fight. There are a million ways we could have died today, and a million ways we could die before tomorrow. But we fight for every second we get to spend with each other. Whether it's 2 minutes or 2 days, we don't give that up. I don't want to give that up. My vote, let's just wait it out. And I think that informs Ellie's choice to stay with Joel. And I think that choice saves Joel's life. It definitely saves Joel's life. Um, so I think it makes sense in a writing standpoint why this arc in the game is called Left Behind. It's one of the first DLCs to actually matter to the plot. Um, but it's and I think it's in the correct place as far as the page goes. But I do agree that like in the editing, it feels a little weird, feels a little rushed, especially from winter spring part of the show. I think those could have been. I think even just one more episode would have helped.
Yeah.
And I do have something to say about Riley's death a little bit later. Um, but for now, yeah, regarding Sarah, yeah, what's different about Sarah is you actually start the game playing as her. You learn
Oh,
you walk around Joel's house, looking at Joel's photos, the things that Joel makes, and going into his bedroom and giving him his birthday present. Like you do these
so
things,
sad.
and so yeah, Sarah's not at all part of the marketing for me either, for the gamers either. So we had no idea she was in there. We were like, oh, okay, so she's gonna be with Joel and Ellie. It's gonna be like a road trip with the family, and nope. We're left with the most shocking moment in gaming history: the death of a child getting shot in the stomach. Um, and I'm just whether it's in the game or in here, I think they nailed it. I think it's um, we see the moment where Joel loses his entire world, where the world ends for him, and I was weeping. I was like fully like loud sobbing when this happened in the HBO show, and having already seen it. And I think also, shout out Nico Parker as Sarah, shout out Storm Reed as Riley. But Nico Parker, I think, did a great job because we start in her perspective as well. Well, we don't after the science part, we start with her perspective and see that what's kind of happening to the work to the neighborhood around her. And I think it's an interesting thing showing her perspective the first time she sees Joel kill someone, um, because it's the exact opposite of Ellie's reaction, right?
Mm.
When Joel shoots her neighbor that she's known her whole life in the head, Sarah's terrified. She's like, "What the fuck did you just do?" Uh, when Ellie sees Joel beat a man to death on her behalf, what does she do? She's fucking smiling. Uh, and I think it's an interesting gateway into the character of Ellie, who we can talk about now. What did you guys think about Bella Ramsey's performance as Ellie?
I love her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go
You
for
can
it,
go
Sabrina.
first, Jared, but I'm
No,
just
go for it.
okay. Well, I think she did a great job. Um, yeah, as soon as I saw her in Game of Thrones, I was like, what the I just want to see her in everything. And I'm so glad. I think she did a great job. I think she's just so like just such a relatable character and just stellar. I think it was stellar. Um, I mean, oftentimes, like with Joel being so like stoic and serious, like you're mostly watching Ellie, right? Like
Mhm.
Joel's just like seriously like looking onto the horizon, and Ellie's just being goofy. Like that's who you're watching. So I think she's the star of the show, and even though I understand that Bella Ramsey's not going to be in the next season, it's going to be hard. That's my understanding, right? Because she grows up. Am I wrong?
She's only 19,
Okay.
and Bella
Well,
Ramsey's 19 in real life.
go off. I mean, my understanding for some reason was that she was being like recast as like an older version.
I hope
All
not.
right. Hell yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, Bella Ramsey. Hey. That's great. Best news I've gotten all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's great. And yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance in her character as soon as we see the whole like scene with her mom. Not that she was there, but I feel like those things shaped her character and not just that, but then Riley, it's like you get a glimpse into all that like through her character even before we see it, and I think she does such a good job portraying that like um kind of like nihilist approach to life because of trauma. I think she does a great job.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I think she fucking knocks it out of the park. Pedro, amazing actor. Loved literally everything he's ever done, but like he's not the star in this. Bella Ramsey's the star. Um, she's probably the first Game of Thrones actress or actor that like I won't see and be like, oh, that's Jon Snow. Oh, that's Theon. Like I'm gonna be like, oh, that's my girl Ellie, and that's awesome. That's badass. Somebody finally broke like that curse of that show. Um, and yeah, she absolutely destroys it in every single scene she's in. Nothing but praise for Bella.
Anybody got favorite Ellie moments?
Mm, well, brutal, but the whole like David thing, I think it was great. The moment she like comes out just like covered in blood, it felt like I mean within this world, within this like twisted apocalypse, it felt like she was it felt like full circle, and it felt like she realized something that she's been trying to do the whole time, like learning how to shoot, learning how to defend herself. um Not that violence is good, kids, but in this world, to me, it's like she's an adult, like she felt grown up, and even though it was traumatic and horrible, like I just wanted to see her do that. I wanted to like see her win a fight and get out of it alone, and it felt really cathartic after seeing so much like horrible shit, and especially with a horrible villain. Yeah.
Jared, favorite Ellie moment?
Yeah. Honestly, that I think that is easily up there. It was nice to see her like kick some ass, like actually like kind of be a solo and be forced to like lead in terms of like getting out of situations like that. I was trying to look up what pun it was, but when she finally tells one that makes Joel laugh, that was a great moment too. Just seeing like the victorious smile on her face was fantastic. But I couldn't find what pun it was.
Is the diarrhea one, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It's a good one. Uh, yeah. No, yeah, man. I like play and as a high schooler playing this game, protecting Ellie and then playing as Ellie, like I think it made me like want to be a dad. I think it made me like want like I just I love this character so much. She feels real to me.
Yeah.
Um, she feels like yeah, like some like yeah, like something that beyond a fictional character. And so I was very uh, you know very gatekeepy when I heard that they were gonna do a TV show about this. But as soon as I heard Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, I was like, okay, because I knew what this kid could do. I say kid, she's just like a few years younger than me. Um, but yeah, she's absolute pro, and not just speaking not only of her ability to carry herself in a scene, excuse me, but also just I think she sees the part of her that is in that character and sees the and fully becomes Ellie. I think over the course of the show, we see. Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that, or I'll talk a little bit about the scene where she kills David. It's definitely a turning point for that character. It's a loss of innocence. Um, it's um, it's a moment where, yeah, it's badass and it's satisfying and it's cathartic, but it's dark as fuck because the Ellie that we grew to love before that is not the same person anymore, and it's gonna show. It's gonna show in ways that are gonna challenge us and gonna challenge the way we see this character. And uh, different people have different things to say about her, right? David. I think this is what makes that episode with David so great is he sees and completely understands who she is, almost from the jump. And you see it in in their interaction in the prison, and it's really really cool. Um, and he speaks about her violent heart, and it's not something that the show does to condemn her. It's not something that the show does to say, oh, she's becoming a bad person. This is someone who's grown up in a dystopian society, who's grown up in a time when literally her entire destiny was to kill uh, anybody breaking the rules. That's her whole thing. Kill infected, kill people breaking the rules. That was her whole childhood, and so the fact that she's even capable of any kindness, I think, is really amazing. Her attempt to save Sam when Sam gets bitten, right away she doesn't even hesitate. She cuts her hand, gives him the blood,
Mm.
doesn't even stop for a bit. Yeah, I think that's something that I was hoping they would capture. I think, yeah, like you guys said, the sense of humor translated really well. I think it definitely helps, especially when you're dealing with someone when you're starting off with a protagonist who's lost his daughter. I think that definitely helps. And speaking of that, Joel, thoughts on Pedro Pascal's performance? Start with Sabrina again.
Well, fellow Latin American, can't really say much negative, especially because he's plants. He's like right next door, and he's my neighbor. We're chilling. We're homies. Oh god, yeah, I know. Like big dream, like meeting him and being like, "Hey, we're like neighbors, right?" I like to think that he'd think I'm awesome. We're friends. Anyways, I think he was great. I think I'm kind of looking forward to the next season where we get some more dimension. Because especially towards the end, like we got a very different kind of version, but a lot of the show he's like your cargo persona, and that makes sense. That does make sense for the story. I'm just really curious to see more. And like I said, I think the show is weirdly like more about Ellie than about Joel. I mean, it is about Joel, but the person I was watching was Ellie. And this next season, I'm hoping that shifts a little bit. I think he did a great job. I'm hoping to see him in more stuff. I know I will because everyone's obsessed with him at this point. But rightly so.
Yeah.
He's our daddy.
He's our daddy. Our parents.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's kind of a stoic brick wall for like 2/3 of the show, um, and he does a great job doing it. His Texas accent, I think, could use a little less wavering at times, but I could look past it. But yeah, I agree. I think
Hasn't lived
he
in Texas
needed.
for 20 years.
So, okay, wait. We gotta talk about the accent. So Jared, you're saying it's like a Texan accent, but he moved out, so it's like occasional because he's moved out.
Yeah, it fades.
Okay,
Yeah.
valid.
It happens.
No,
I
yes.
had a coworker who used to live in Dallas, and she hasn't for years, and you would never be able to tell.
Totally. No, totally. My grandmother, born in Spain, lived there till she was 18. Then in Argentina, like does not have a Spanish accent at all.
Yeah.
That's an intense accent. But yeah, I guess it was very random.
I thought it was fine.
It's
It
valid.
did just come
I
in
just
like super strong at random times.
But I mean, so does like, my random Latin American accent. Sometimes it shows up. You have no control over it. I guess it's always random because it's just natural. But I didn't realize he had even a little bit of an accent until like past like second half.
Okay.
It was way in where I was like, oh wait.
Alright.
He doesn't sound like he's from Latin America. What is this?
Yeah, I mean, it took a long time. I don't know.
I guess that's good. Yeah, being not aware of it's probably a positive.
Valid.
I think this
Um,
interpretation of oh, did you have more thoughts of Joel?
Not really. Just
Go
kind
for it.
of mirroring what Sabrina said. I wanted more. I think we're definitely gonna get more because I don't know. There's no way that he doesn't go on like full dad persona after like what she's done for him and what they've been through. Even more now. Um, so I'm excited to see him shine a little more. Hopefully we get it. Maybe he'll die episode 1. Who knows?
No, they just play baseball the whole season 2. They're just
I'm, honestly, I'm down.
bad things.
They build a baseball field in a cornfield. It'll be great.
If you build it, they will come. No. I think this interpretation of Joel is very based in. It feels like it's reminiscent of Clint Eastwood's performance in Unforgiven. I think you guys use the word stoic a lot. I sort of agree. I think that the thing with that Clint Eastwood character and the thing with Pedro Pascal's character here is that he's pretending to be stoic and he's using the stoicism as armor because I think as soon as he sees this girl, I think he instantly like is about to fall into that trap again. Is about to fall into that he being a parent doesn't turn off. And that muscle, that part of your heart, doesn't go away, even after your kid dies. And so, I think he's been suppressing it this whole time. He even volunteers at the very beginning to burn the kid's body just to you know smush it down a little more. Um, and But he can't help himself. I think um, he's acting strong and he's acting tough to protect himself from the horror of the loss of Sarah again. And I think an interesting thing that wasn't in the show but was in here was giving him PTSD symptoms like panic attacks and nightmares. Um, these are definitely something that we see in the show that is like that happens every time he gets closer to Ellie. When they enter into Jackson, he thinks that she's about to get killed, right? Because the dog's gonna sniff the cordyceps and she's gonna get shot in the head. And instead of killing everybody, that he probably could kill everybody, but instead of doing that, he freezes. He has a panic attack. He can't do it. And every single character interaction that he has is, you know, Henry's failure to protect Sam, and then Henry's death, Henry's suicide after that, Bill's success in protecting Frank and living a full life. These things that Joel witnesses, all of them influence his choice at the very end. And so I do think that, yes, Ellie's the star of the show, but I'd still think it's Joel's journey, Joel's sort of redemption, because um, when Sarah dies, he becomes this monster. He becomes this murderer. He kills innocent people. He becomes a hunter, as we see in the game, as we see in here. He's been on both sides of that trap that they run into, which is heavy shit. And um, you know, I the a scene that was new to me was the scene right before they got caught by the fireflies in the very last episode, where he all but tells Ellie, "I love you," where he says he tells her the story of Sarah, and she tells him, "I know what you're trying to tell me that time heals all wounds," and he looks at her and he says, "It wasn't time that did it," and she's like, oh, this is real. And immediately after that, she's taken away. She's about to be killed. His whole world is going to fall apart. And that leads to him choosing to not just stop the Fireflies from finding a cure, but to murder every single one of them. Um, what do you guys think about this decision? What do you think about his choice to save Ellie and then lie to her about it? And yeah, it's definitely the most controversial part of the first game. People are still talking about that ending. What do you think about it, Jared?
um, I was pretty. I mean, like, I'm not for it, like, morally, but like I'm for it in the show. Like, it wouldn't be my choice, but um, I think it makes sense for their journey. I wish we got more of a payoff when he goes all John Wick on all the fireflies. I feel like just the slow motion, like, I don't know, that sequence. I was left like, okay, come on, I want to see a little bit of the action. Um, but his choice to do that made a lot of sense for the character. The lie was kind of more surprising for me. He's not like the most honest person in the world, but I think uh, I don't know. I think he could have also told her, and she would have freaked out, but I think she would have understood after a little bit. So that kind of surprised me a little bit more, but overall, I agreed with both moves by the original writers, and this probably smart not to change it in the show. Be fucking riots in the street. Um, but yeah, I supported it. I wasn't like disappointed by his decision.
Yeah, from what I gather, um, there's more conversation about like, is this right or wrong in Ellie's eyes and in the next season or in the next part of the game?
Don't look at anything for next season. Don't
Okay.
go in as blind as possible. Go in
Okay,
as
okay,
blind
okay,
as possible.
okay, okay. Well, I know that bit because I was watching this video about is it good or bad, just to get like some
Okay.
more discourse on it. But forget that. I think well, I had a lot of expectation for the last episode because everyone had hyped it up so much, like too much. And I was surprised and I think it was really interesting and I enjoyed watching it, even though it was crazy, but in all the right ways. But I wish I had not listened to anyone at all. But it's hard when you're like, I'm watching The Last of Us. I haven't played the game. Oh, you haven't played the game? Oh my God, the ending's gonna be crazy if they do it like the game. Every single person I talk to, which valid, it is, but I was expecting like the world to blow up or something. Like, it's gotta be crazy at this point, like for real. But I think it was interesting. Yeah, like when I watched it, I kept thinking like, oh, like come on, Joel, like get your shit together. But like I said, I was watching this YouTube video about is it good or bad and is it right or wrong, and the guy in the video, I hate to rip him off, but he just kept talking about like if they did this to my family, like he didn't feel comfortable saying yes, kill my child, and I don't have kids, but like if you told me like we can kill your sister and save the entire human race and solve all of our problems beyond like the fact that I probably would say no. And I'm pretty sure Joel says this in the episode. They're like, can't you just find someone else? That would be my feeling. Like, just find someone else, not me, not this person, like not my person. So I I think it makes a lot of sense, and I would have done the same thing. I wouldn't have killed everyone, I'm not Joel. And violence is wrong. But I probably would have done the same thing. Like, don't, not with my family, not with my people. Like, there's nothing that would have been okay. Like, imagine if he would have been like, oh yeah, take Ellie. Like, that's a shell of a man. Like, there's no reason to live anymore. He's found his brother. There's no like purpose. Like, his girlfriend's dead. Like, that's too much. Um, so I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't see it happening any other way. And if I were in it, I would have done anything to save my family member. Um, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And the lying, I mean, it felt really like too easy, but I think a lot of his past kind of plays in. I kind of, you know, wish there was a flashback to this like the killing innocent people thing. Um, and I understand why there wasn't before. And Jared, we talked about this like kind of like crescendo to like this horrible, like, wow, this is a different version of Joel we hadn't seen before. But maybe those flashbacks could have happened in the last episode. Maybe we could have skipped the whole giraffe bit, which I'd love to talk about later. But yeah, I would love to cue that one up. But yeah, maybe we could have gone through the beginning a little faster and then done this whole like, okay, Ellie's here, like everyone's excited, like here you go, like we're gonna save the world, and then oh shit, that implies killing her. Holy crap, no, not down for this. And then Flash, maybe just cutting to like flashbacks of him like killing innocent people for no reason. Um, but I can understand how that's, more of a point than the show is trying to make. I know the show is very neutral with these things, so it's more just like, we're going to show you. We're not going to say that it's a good or bad thing or they're a good or bad person. So maybe that's a different show. But yeah, I really wish I would have seen this like other Joel like before the last episode. Yeah, yeah.
That would have been kind of cool. I didn't even think about that, using a flashback in that scene.
Could have been nice.
I did like that it wasn't John Wicky in the way they presented it. I think it makes more sense for me to see the scene as sad, because this isn't a triumphant act of violence. It's a tragic act of violence, and seeing his kind of like empty face throughout it all, I thought it was just really fucking good. And this whole thing about, in when you're playing a video game, you're like a lot stronger than the enemy. But here, Joel is not. Joel can't be. He just has to be a lot smarter. He just has to be a lot more efficient. And we see that here. He's not wasting a single bullet. He's shooting one in their leg to disable them and disarm them, and then shooting one in their head. It's very quick, very surgical, if you will. And it doesn't. He's on autopilot, because for him, I think we. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I have a
Oh,
question for
go for
you.
it.
Well, how did it feel playing that? Like first person, like, okay, now kill everyone. um,
Um,
yeah, how did that feel?
it's interesting. There's more than one way to play that sequence. You can play it in such a way where you get past all of them and you don't kill them. You can sneak past
Oh,
them and not kill them. Um, I got caught, and so they tried to shoot me, and I had to kill them because of that. Um, Killing the surgeon is not optional. You have to kill the surgeon. Killing the nurses is optional. He doesn't kill the nurses in this because they're not a threat. But some people go through and they just kill everybody in that operating room. There's different. Yeah, the game leaves it open to you. Leaves a little bit open to you. And honestly though, while I was playing it the way I felt, there was no timer. There's no alarm. There's no like speaker system. Surgery commencing in 10, 9. There's no sense of urgency that the game provides for you. but there's a sense of urgency in me. I was rushing through there because they were going to kill my daughter. That's how that felt. And so, um, yeah, I would have killed them all for as far as my choice. I I know it's morally probably not correct, and I know it's probably not the good thing to do. We skipped over Marlene intentionally. Merle Dandridge, by the way, is the only actor that reprises her role from the original game. She played Marlene in the original. She plays Marlene here, and I think she does a great job. Um, and yeah, Marlene is also feels parental feelings towards Ellie, and yet she finds it within herself to have this compassion for the world. And I think that's why that character is important. I think that's why that they spend so much time with her in the beginning, where the game did not in the beginning of the last episode. But for Joel, losing Ellie is losing the world. For Joel, the world isn't worth living in if she's not in it. The world, and is this a world really worth saving if we're going to kill a 14-year-old girl to save it? This is the question that keeps going back and forth throughout the fan base and throughout people now who have just seen the show for the first time. Did Joel do the right thing? And as regarding the lie, I think they established pretty early on that parents lie and that parents try to do whatever they can to make sure their kids are safe. They do it with Henry. They do it with, yeah, and with in a twisted way, David. He's kind of this really horrible parental figure that keeps everybody in the dark about what they're eating and lies to them because he assumes that he knows better. He assumes that it's for their own good, and it ends up biting him in the ass. And it's a natural response for a parent to lie. And I think Joel does it because he's afraid of losing her. I think he also does it to protect Ellie from herself. She wanted her life to mean something. She says this. This was her purpose. And Joel didn't just take away the world's savior. He took away Ellie's purpose in life. And yeah, with that being said, what I don't know how much you guys know about season 2. I would say try to not play the game if you can avoid it. If you want to just play both games, great, go for it. But what do you think is next for our characters in season 2? What do you
I
think?
still want to talk about the giraffe at some point. So
We can go back to the giraffe.
we can talk about at the end. I don't care when. I just at some point I want your thoughts on it so bad. Want me to answer your question first, and later we talk about giraffe?
Yes, we'll get to the giraffe. Oh my god.
It's like Chekhov's gun. Like, oh my god, there's a giraffe.
I hope they come back season 2.
Yeah, more giraffe. No, I wanted to see more Joel fully developed, like I talked about earlier. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking forward to more like.
What does fully developed look like to you?
Well, I guess more of like episode 1 Joel, which I know it won't be, but like almost like a parody or like a twisted version of episode 1 Joel, like back to like his fatherly ways.
Okay.
And I know it's gonna come with a twist, but yeah, I feel like for a lot of this, like the season, like at the beginning, like he had a pretty specific personality. He's really likable, really interesting. And then we cut to like episode 2, like everything's gone to shit. He's depressed, suicidal. To me, suicidal because the way he does things is very like, fuck it, if I die, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, like depressed. and stoic to the extreme, which totally makes sense. Really well done. No complaints. I'm looking forward to seeing a different side. And that's what I consider fully developed, or at least another aspect of him. Ellie, I want to see more Ellie. I'd love to see a conversation about this, if there is one, like about like what he did and how she feels and what happens with that. More zombies. I want to see, like, everyone always talks about the different stages of the zombies in the game, and I wanted it, and I still want it, and I'm like still hoping that they show up. Like, I want some scientist like asshole to pull up like a PowerPoint in the middle of the episode and be like, the zombies do this and because of that. So, like, I want that so bad. So I'm still hoping we get that. And why not? I mean, I'd be excited for it. And I mean, we've talked about this IRL, Jared, like the idea of understanding Ellie's like the limits of what her condition is and how that might be something that she can use to her advantage. So, you know, the biting David in that episode, she like breaks his thumb, I'm pretty sure, and then has a bite. And she's like, see, you're infected now. I bit you. You're infected, blah, blah, blah. I feel like we didn't get an answer there, and I want those answers. I want to know what happens when she bites someone, and yeah.
I was just thinking, like,
Yeah.
the reason she said that was just pure instinct,
Yeah,
pure survival.
that's what I
Just,
thought too.
I gotta
Totally.
say anything I can to get this guy to let go of my hand.
Totally, and it's true, but then he dies, so I don't even know, like, was it? Like, you know? I want to know, like, what happened when she bites someone else, and interestingly, like the scene where she shares like her blood as like the antidote, and then that doesn't work. Like, I want those answers, even if the answer is no. I just want them. Or even an understanding of how they were going to turn like her into some sort of vaccine, like how, yeah, I want more sciencey shit.
Didn't they say
They
it in the
they
film?
do answer that last one.
Did they?
Yeah, they
Well,
said that like
they have to like go into
her,
her, was it brain or am I wrong?
yeah, so her brain like had some chemical that made the body think there were already cordyceps, so they like won't infect. Or am I getting that right, Jerry? It was something
Yeah.
along those lines, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which I think also answers the biting question, because if she doesn't have the cordyceps in her, I don't think she could transfer them. But that's like
Yeah.
speculation on my end.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
and just to manage your expectations, I think they show that the reason people get infected from bites is because the tendrils are in their mouths.
Mhm.
So Ellie doesn't
Right.
have tendrils in their mouths.
Which they kind of teased.
So just yeah, I'm not gonna say anything.
Still, Sabrina.
But I'm just letting you know there were no tendrils in Bella Ramsey's.
Valid. No, I mean, I get that, and I know, I knew the whole brain thing. That's why she had to die for it to happen. I want more of it.
For sure.
I mean, when I read World War Z, like that's what I liked. I liked that fucking book. The movie is horrible.
Every single critique you're giving is it's not this other thing I like.
What a nerd!
It's a different
What a nerd.
thing than this other thing I like.
What a nerd! No, I mean, sorry.
I love World War Z too. Like,
Yeah.
It's a genre film. I'm like comparing it to other things in the genre.
okay, I get it.
I like it. I think there's different ways to do it, but like when I watch a horror film, I expect certain things. I expect certain things to be tropes that are annoying. I expect maybe the movie knows that those tropes are annoying. Like, I don't know, fucking, there's a jump scare. Is it going to happen? It leads to nothing. Ooh, remember jump scares in horror films? I kind of I like that. I like playing with the genre. If you're going to do a thing that's already been done, show me why you're doing it different. Show me why you're doing it the same. If you are, I like those things. Yeah.
Jared, any expectations for season 2 or desires, I
Um,
guess.
I
I
honestly,
think I spoiled the location.
for season 2,
I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe maybe you forgot. I don't know.
no, there's some spoilers based off that trailer, but like I also barely remember it. But like I think there will be, especially because it seems like the consensus from the fans were like, great show, but where's the infected? I think they're gonna listen. So I think we're gonna get more infected, and I also desire more infected. One thing that they did sparingly in this, that I want absolutely more of, kind of connects to World War Z too. But like the flashback, of the mushroom specialist in, like, I think it was Indonesia or something. Like
Yeah.
there's other parts of the world. I want to see what went down in like fucking Beijing. I just wanted to have a whole season that's like, here's all these other parts of the planet. Um, that was probably the most nerve-wracking part of the show, was when she had her finger in the, the infected's mouth. I was like, what are you doing? Get that away from there. Don't go in there. And so I
Yeah.
want more of that. I want more, like, expand the universe a little bit. I don't know if we'll get that, but I want it. Um, I yeah, I think, um, them heading back to some civilization is kind of going to be a jumping off point, because right now they're just in this facility with a bunch of bodies, or they end in a car, don't they? So I think that, like, the journey
Yeah, they
back
end overlooking
home.
Jackson.
Oh, okay, yeah. Um, so I guess that'll be the obvious jumping off point then. Maybe not starting with a road trip. Um, Yeah, I don't really know at all what to expect, but I want more infected. I want to expand the world a bit, expand the lore, um, and yeah, I just want more Last of Us.
Yeah, no. Um, there's a lot more characters. We'll get a little bit more Tommy. Just little teasers. One thing that I'm not sure is going to be in the show, but I really hope it is there's a point there are a couple points in The Last of Us Part Two where they let you just explore, and there are optional little nooks and crannies, and one of them is a bank that was being robbed on the day of the outbreak.
Oh,
It's it's one of the best sets in the whole thing, and it's so small but so genius. And I was like, "Oh fuck yeah, let's." So I really hope that that happens. I really hope that we see that. Um, I'm excited for you guys to meet Dina and Jesse. Uh, um,
me
but yeah,
too.
the season two is gonna go so crazy. And yeah, um, alrighty. Um,
Giraffes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. Oh yeah. What? Okay, giraffe. What? I don't know.
What do you
I don't know
got?
what the infatuation with a giraffe is. What are you talking about?
You know what I'm referencing, right?
Yeah. I know what you're referencing.
There's only so many giraffes in the show.
Got
I don't
it right now.
Okay,
So
okay.
hard.
So go for it.
You go for it. I can't believe there's a giraffe in the last
Did you like not like it, or was it just like a what the fuck moment? I don't understand. You're just saying giraffe and then laughing. I don't know what to do. I don't know.
I'm like shocked. There was a giraffe, and I feel like no one's acknowledging it. No one's talking about the giraffe in the room. I mean, well, I don't get it. I saw it, and I just
Oh,
understand the reference. I guess my specific question for you, I'm losing it. Was it in the game?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they say this used to be a zoo, and because I guess the city got bombed and nature overtook it. Nature just finds a way to just like um, a big part of the production design, right, is this idea that the planet overrides our man-made structures very easily.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Kansas City looks completely different than what it looks like in real life because of that, because of how much we have to do to keep nature out of our spaces.
Mm.
And I think that's part of the beauty of the end of the world in this thing. Like they're always juxtaposing the ugliness of it and the beauty of it. And part of the beauty of it is that these animals get to thrive where they didn't get to thrive before. I think also mechanically in the story, it's for Joel to see that Ellie's okay, right? After killing David, she's not the same anymore.
Mm.
She no longer, right. We see her walking ahead of Joel and then walking next to Joel, and then after she kills David, she's walking behind him and he's trying to get her to catch up. He's trying to get her to catch up, and then as soon as she sees the giraffe and gets that interaction, and you see that kid awaken again, he's like, okay, she's gonna be okay. That's how I interpret it, at least.
Valid, valid. And I mean, like the whole like cordyceps, like versus humans. That's also nature versus humans.
Yeah.
It shows human weakness over nature.
So it is a good zombie concept.
Okay. No, that's exactly the
No, I'm
answer
just
I
kidding. I'm
wanted.
just kidding.
No,
Okay,
that's
cool.
exactly the answer I wanted because when I watched it, I was like screaming at my TV, like, why is there a fucking giraffe in here?
Giraffes have been haunting her dreams for.
Yeah, it feels a little intense. It feels like, whoa, like there was another scene where there were monkeys, right? And they're
Yeah.
just like in the room and then they leave. Like I get that.
Yeah.
The giraffe was like a long moment, and like they interacted with it, and it felt like a lot. I mentioned Chekhov's gun earlier because that's what it feels like to me. Like, oh, we see this giraffe.
Did someone spoil the giraffe for you, and then you were waiting for a giraffe the whole time? Is that what
No, not
happened?
at all.
Oh,
More
okay.
so the opposite. I was
Oh, okay.
like, oh, they're gonna bring Ellie to the like hospital thing. There's a fucking giraffe. Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. Like a little out of the blue and on the nose, and like, oh, maybe it's gonna like come into play. somehow.
They ride giraffes back
felt
to
like a
Jackson.
Giraffe zombies.
One of
Yeah.
them turns its head and it's like clicking at them.
Well, just to piss Jared off, in Train to Busan, there's a zombie deer. So I guess my other
True.
thought is,
Oh, this other completely different, separate work of art is different. Whoa. Criticism.
this episode ends with us beating each other up over
You're,
shit.
you're acting like I don't love zombie movies. Like,
No, you do. You do. I'm
it's
annoying.
different.
I'm just a nerd is all.
No, I get it. I get it. And I appreciate. No, that's why I wanted you in here, because I appreciate your input, and I appreciate, um, both of you, especially coming in as newcomers to this story. And yeah. Any other thoughts about The Last of Us? I know we said we do favorite episodes, but we don't have to if you don't. We're running a little long.
I haven't.
Okay. Do you have? Okay, go for it.
Yeah, real quick. Well, episode one. Episode one was awesome. I didn't know what to expect, and it hit really hard. The whole like grandma turning in the background out of focus. I was like, what the heck? And I love that. That was so much fun. And I mean the whole like starting off with the like scientist, like 50s, like they got me with that one because madman over here, mid-century modern aesthetics like me. So they hooked me real quick, and the whole like mushroom lore, easy. Yeah, that was that really did it for me. Episode 1.
Jared.
So good.
Yeah. Honestly, I think just scrolling through, if I had to like pick a top five, it would probably go 5, 4, 3, 8, 1. I loved the first half of the show like crazy. No shade to the second half. Um, but like they started off so fucking strong.
Totally.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, it's hard for me to pick a favorite for sure. I guess uh like I had so many like pleasant surprises with Long Time, episode 3. Um the cold open of the entire show with the scientists, with the
Mhm.
epidemiologists, was a surprise to me because that didn't happen. Um the Kansas City freedom fighters were a surprise to me, and so I like that. I think I honestly I kind of like um, episode 3 and or sorry no episode 8 and episode 5 the most. Episode 5 being Endure and Survive, where Sam and Henry meet their end, and so does the rest of their entire city because of Henry's decision. I think it's a great microcosm of what Joel did. And it's also just really intense the entire time. Um, and then episode 8 is really intense because of the kind of matchup between uh, uh, Ellie and David, and when when she's like she bites him, and like he's like, okay, I'm gonna kill you, and walks away, and she's like still screaming at him like in defiance. I think it's so cool, and just like very, yeah, very cool. um yeah, and of course episode 3 um being amazing all the way through. I was very very happy to hear that Nick Offerman was casted as Bill, and I had not seen Murray Bartlett before then. So I'm a fan now, and yeah, very very good for both of them. And I didn't even think about it until after the fact, but like the first time with their first kiss, it's like, oh my god, like I didn't even think about it till after the episode. Like this, like they're having their first kiss in 2003. Like their brains are still in 2003, and the way our country was different before that, or the way at least from my perspective, the way that we thought about gay folks back then, is kind of just like way off to the side. Um, is very very interesting and very very I don't know, touching to see that um, kind of story play out. And you also got to see a different side of Tess. I have always loved Tess. I always was very sad when she dies in the game, and it's good to see her like kind of be more sophisticated and pair up nicely with Frank.
Mm.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to leave the people with? We've been going on for a bit.
No.
Faux show. All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in to our review of The Last of Us Season 1. Endure and survive. We love you. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.